Some blokes would make it up.
If man created Zeus
and the god of the sun,
if man created Shiva
and the god of Abraham,
from all of life, why should the only one saved be the
species worst behaved?
Ron and Andrea claim the arrival of school chaplains is proselytising by stealth. In arguing their case, they point to the way chaplains are recruited, trained and employed in Queensland.
G'day, Tim Mander here, CEO of SU Queensland. I wanted to talk to you like this today because something unprecedented has happened in Queensland state schools over the last 12 months. Chaplaincy in Queensland has exploded.
Tim Mander heads up Scripture Union Queensland.
SU Queensland is a Christian employing authority and we're an interdenominational organisation. It's important to note that the chaplaincy program is not a religious education program, it's a pastoral care program. We want to be there for the ethical, spiritual support of students and help them navigate through some of those tough issues in life that unfortunately more and more kids seem to be facing.
Scripture Union Queensland trains and employs nearly all of the 500 chaplains currently working in Queensland schools. Their numbers have more than doubled since the launch of the National Chaplaincy Program in 2007.
This focus could also possibly have a diluting effect on the life-changing impact that you can have as a chaplain being the spiritual representative in that community. And that's really how you're often seen by the admin of the schools as the spiritual religious go-to person. And we've talked
Scripture Union Queensland runs regular 3-day induction programs like this one for new recruits. They must have finished Year 12 and a diploma in youth work, which must be completed within their first 2 years of working as a chaplain.
Don't allow students to manipulate you into agreeing to keep secrets or not to tell anyone. It's really important that you avoid those sort of traps.
All would-be Scripture Union chaplains must be Christians who share its mission and vision as stated on its website, to see young lives transformed by engaging them with Jesus, the Bible and the local church. Margaret is one of around 30 new recruits. She's just started working as a chaplain at a school in Rockhampton.
I have such a hunger, a heart to help shape and mould our future generation, and we have some amazing leaders. We have some amazing I didn't plan these tears, okay? It's amazing young people, and I just see so much potential. I just want to make a difference. I just want to be there, to make a difference in, even if it's just one child, that's worth it.
While Scripture Union's mission statement is clear, so too are the federal government's guidelines. School chaplains should support students of all religions and must not impose their own beliefs.
The guidelines for chaplaincy are very, very clear. Chaplains cannot evangelise or proselytise. That's something that as an employing authority we totally respect and we actually agree with those guidelines. So part of the induction process is to ensure that chaplains understand that and know how to work appropriately within those guidelines.
The mission statement at the Scripture Union website clearly states that they exist to bring the word of Jesus to children every day.
The state policy guidelines in Queensland state that a chaplain can own their faith position, but they can never impose their beliefs. So a chaplain will only engage in spiritual conversations with a child when they have initiated themselves. Now sometimes there's lunchtime groups and clubs that chaplains run, but they're always done with parental permission and obviously done on a volunteer basis from the student's point of view.
An evangelist doesn't sort of clock on and off. If somebody's evangelising, it's part of your, it is your shtick, you know, it is with you all the time, and that's fair enough. And that's great, but it gets a bit tricky when it's in a state school. It's a bit like saying to hire a plumber and ask him not to touch the pipes.
This is one of the stereotypes that we have to cop as chaplains, is that we're religious and are trying to impose some sort of religious agenda on people. It's not. I care less about whether people agree with me or not as a follower of Jesus Christ. What I care about is that people would know what they believe and why they believe it. The challenge is going to be maintaining that respect in an environment, in a situation that's stressful and challenging.
David Hockey is the chaplain at Pine Rivers State High School in Brisbane. Pine Rivers has around 1,400 students, and David is here full-time.
I personally believe, and as a chaplain, I believe that Jesus is the way, truth and life. But and that can come through in our conversation. But young people know that. I'm the chaplain in the school. They know what they're going to get. They know that I'm the Goddie. So they come to me, young people and staff, knowing that, and I guess expecting me to speak about that. Can I invite you now just to grab the rope, pick the rope up, and hold on to the rope just with one hand.
Like 99% of chaplains in the state, he's employed by Scripture Union Queensland. But as he was at Pine Rivers before the National Chaplaincy program was launched, his school was not eligible for funding. So David raises the money for his position himself.
Here at the school, one of our priorities, though, as a chaplain is to, and this is under the agreement with Ed Queensland, is part of our priority is to nurture Christian students. And so we'll run a Bible study at school, or and this is all according to the students saying, hey, this is something that we'd like to do. Jesus, and in the Last Supper there's a part where it talks about John being the one who was reclining against Jesus. These guys were great mates, and I love the book of John because he was Jesus' best friend, and he has particular...
David runs this weekly Bible study group at lunchtimes.
Students come on their own accord, they're aware of it, so those that come in, that's fine, no problem at all.
When he's involved in regular school activities, David says parental consent is a prerequisite.
If I'm going to be teaching a class where all students are in that class, for instance, then parents will need to be notified and checking that suits all parents, that people can nominate to have their students out of those classes if they like.
So why don't bees go to heaven and trees go to heaven and even krill and...
Ron Williams claims this parental permission process is continually being breached. He's complained about the chaplaincy program to state and federal governments, to no avail.
That's because that same species, Homo sapiens, carries the chutzpah.
With the support of a group of like-minded parents, Ron is now trying to mount a challenge against the federal government's funding of the chaplaincy program in the High Court of Australia.
It's all part of the same thing.
That's right, there's no separate legislation for chaplaincy at all.
No.
And,
they call themselves the Australian Secular Lobby, and they all object to the way in which the chaplaincy program has been introduced.
The first we knew of chaplaincy was a phone call from a friend of mine who said, have you heard that the PNC has voted to get a chaplain? And I said, no, never heard of this. So on investigation we found out the school had run some sort of vote whether parents wanted chaplains to come in. But it turned out that the only parents who actually had received a polling letter were basically members of these various churches.
A public meeting that I attended, which we refer to as the 40 Vicars meeting, because it was full of people from the evangelical church. And there were, of the 20-something people in the meeting, including myself, who had nothing to do with the school, there were only about 3 or 4 parents, genuine parents. There was nobody from the PNC.
Chaplains aside, Vicky O'Brien from the Sunshine Coast believes evangelical Christians are gaining access to students in other ways.
When I was looking for a state high school for my daughter, I was informed that the high school was introducing a program that targeted Year 8 girls. And that it was not religious and it simply helped girls with their self-confidence. I asked her, well, can I find out about the program? And she told me, yeah, look it up. It's called Shine. Well, I Googled Shine and it was immediately obvious to me that it was a Hillsong construct to recruit young girls into their faith. Mm-hmm.